Hey guys, it's me, Chocolate Sweets, coming to you now with a book review. I am an avid reader. I read a lot. I'm not into the big Kobos and the Kindle Fires. I don't do that. I got to have a book. Something about curling up with a book. But I'm a visual reader. I talk a lot when I read. It drives my husband crazy at night when he's trying to sleep and I'm talking to the book. But it's like a movie for me when I read. So the first book I'm going to talk about is, of course, the book that everyone is talking about, the 50 Shades of Grey book series. It's about Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey. The main characters are Anastasia Steele, Christian Grey, Kate, which is Anna's friend, Elliot, Taylor, which is head of security for Christian, and a whole bunch of other Miss Robinson, which is the reason why Christian's way is. So anyway, the book starts out with Anastasia going to meet Christian to interview him, and she falls into his office, the yada yada yada, and Christian is automatically intrigued by her. She's young. She's just graduating from college with a degree in journalism media. She wanted to be an editor. Christian is into the dominant, submissive type thing. Everybody jumped on these books because of the sexual nature in the book. Yeah, that was my reason for picking the books up too. But then once I got to reading the books, there was more of an underlying story. There was some suspense. There was some lessons to be learned. It was I personally got more out of the book. Christian had a lot of issues, hence the 50 Shades of Grey. There was a lot of shades to his life, things that he didn't like to do or things he didn't like people to do to him, which was stemmed from his youth, from his childhood. But when he got with Anastasia, Anastasia became good for him in a way that he was willing to give up the red room of pain. He was willing to be touched. He was willing to let himself be loved, even though he was a gazillionaire, had money coming out of his ears. He could buy anything, and he was also this major, good-looking guy that women would always fumble over, or be in awe about all the time. So when he got with Anastasia, he became more communicative. He became more affectionate. He became more open to actual love. Anastasia's issues were she didn't know how attractive she was, so they became actually good for each other in a sense. By the time you get to the end of book two, there's not as much of the sexual stuff going on as it was in book one. And by book three, you're trying to figure out the mystery of who's trying to kill and ruin Christian. So, you start out in book one with all the sexual stuff. Oh, excuse me. And then I just dropped the book, sorry. And then by book two, there's a scene here and there, just like if you was watching a movie. Sorry. And then by book three, you may have had 3 sex scenes in the whole book because it was more of a story. Would I recommend the book to anybody? Of course, it's a good read. You got to have a wild imagination. If you're easily embarrassed when it comes to sex or talking about sex or sexual positions or any of those things, then it wouldn't be a good book for you because it's a lot of openly sexual descriptions of sexual acts. So if you're easily embarrassed, it wouldn't be a good book. But for a good story, I would highly recommend the books. They're good. I'm trying to get my husband to read them. He's he's saying no. He don't want to read the books. When I keep trying to explain that it's really a storyline, but that's my view of the book. I could go on and on about the books because there are three of them. Um, with them falling in love with each other and all that good stuff. But again, I just like the underlying stories of the book. I didn't really care too much for all the sex and the hoopla that everybody else cared about. I cared about the actual story. So that's my review on the 50 Shades of Grey. Again, if you guys know of any good series out there, please drop me a line in my message box. Just drop it in the comments, and I will go and pick them up and read them. Toodles!